Dun, 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 dun. And we're live. Not too bad. 10:03. Happy New Year. It's January 5th, 2024. I'm gonna have to keep reminding myself of that. I want to let everybody know today is going to be one of those kind of interesting, instructive things. But if you would like to ask questions or if you have things you'd like to talk about for your regular office hours, please do use the chat over in the YouTube. Let me just double check also that we are live at WP Launch Kit. And for those of you who are tuning in, as always, please do let me know how the audio and video is. I talked to Alexander Graham Bell, and he promised me that the Xfinity cable would work today. If not, I have the Verizon as a backup. This does seem to be working, so we're otherwise ready to go. I'm going to put you guys on notice as well. I have a raging migraine for some reason this morning, so I'm going to be doing this little icing on the back of my neck if the pain gets too much. I know I'm just a big kvetch, but it might make many of you feel better to know that you're not alone if you've got your own little things going on. So the reason that I wanted to do today's edition is I've been spending some time over the last few days with a few of our successful students and clients who are using the built-in tools that are in the Launch Kit. And I'm going to start referring this to as the WP Launch Kit or into our new WP Marketing Hub. It's the same product. It's just depending on whether you're using the built-in Fluent CRM or you're bringing your own, like Go High Level. So one of the things that has come up is that many people are surprised that I'm going to use a metaphor today of you can buy a basket. I realize that I have to do over here. You can buy a basket that has everything you want in the form of a directory. There's lots of directory plugins in the WordPress ecosystem. Or you can use the tools in Launch Kit to just make a simpler solution for a directory. And whether it be a directory of people or it could be informational, like at WP Launch Kit, we use it for our documentation. It could be for selling things. Good morning, Dr. Krieger. Happy New Year as well. Either way, the approach I want to talk about today is rather than going out to the flea market and buying another complicated framework plugin that has everything baked in, it's a better choice to just simply use a few simple tools. And I'm going to do this live with a migraine without a net because it's just that simple. And I was speaking to a couple, again, of our very smart entrepreneurs last evening, and I think they were a little surprised that this stuff is under the hood. So that's why I wanted to make it clear. So without further ado, I am going to jump over to, let me scoot my windows around a little bit. And by the way, Dr. Krieger or whoever else, please let me know how the audio and video is. I'm watching it today on my own Macintosh, and it seems to be good today. At least the video does. So let's get set up so I can show more of the screen. And what I've got here is the Launch Kit stack with the latest updates as of yesterday. The software is still basically the same. There's no difference. What I'm going to use is just a few of the key components. So let's talk about what it is I'm going to build live and then why I'm using the components as we go. I'm going to build a simple directory. This directory is going to be for, let's say in this case, it's a people directory. It's going to have faceted search. And the outcome of this means that you could build a very simple way and sell a simple way for people to have their professional profiles listed. So as a business model, there's a purpose to this as well. Here's what it is. Let's say one of my clients is in the nutrition field. There are people who come out of nutrition school or are professional nutritionists who have skills and are looking for clients. They don't have a web presence and they don't want to get into the business of figuring that out. So by giving them a ready-to-go personal profile page that's curated with their stuff, with almost no work, I mean like 2 minutes of work, you can have a singular layout that puts their information in. They will gladly pay you $47 a month, $497 a year. If they want to, they can up the ante and move to a full Launch Kit site that has just 1 or 2 features on it, and you can charge them $97 a month or $147 a month for things like a lead intake form. Good morning, Chris. Good to see you as always. And in doing so, you've got a built-in model, whether you're using the Fluent CRM or you're using Go High Level or another CRM. you've got an ability to offer something that, like I talked about before the holidays, it's a singular solution, so simple to build that they don't have to be technical about. Either you're doing it on your own site in a common directory, or you're doing the same thing for them individually. Okay. So that's the business model. And in doing so, there's a proven method. I mean, I've had in my own world dozens and dozens of instances of this for my own students, including you guys. But also, in fairness, I'll show you some of my better student solutions are like baseball jobs overseas. This is David Burns has been with me as a client for many years. This is an example of a directory. Baseball players and team owners overseas want to get together. It's like the Amazon.com of baseball players. So it's faceted search. You can choose on these various things. I want a first base person. Okay. And then the profile details are whatever you want to make of it. Today, just to let you know, I'm going to also simplify how we do this, because although David's solution has a more complex under the hood ACF fields and blah, 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 we have patterns. So as I was discussing with, if she's here today, Anne and Anisha yesterday, most people don't need more than a basic profile. Chris is saying, just had a similar call with a client about this and getting them set up at the front end. Exactly. So what I want to show you, which is so remarkable, is remember I've been speaking to you guys about the business model of 2024 is a concierge business. So let's talk about something, and then I'm going to show you. How much time do you think would be involved of somebody paying you $47 a month? They get a standard template to put their name, their picture, their curriculum vitae, their like basic pricing ideas, not selling stuff, but like this is the 3 services I offer. So maybe 5 pieces of information. How long do you think it'll take you running the business if they just pay you, and in the process of paying you, check out by sending you that in the comments section, or you have a Fluent form, or even just email you, here's my stuff, including some crazy, I just took this picture of myself and it's 4,000 pixels by 4,000 pixels. If they send it to you and you have a system where everybody has the same template, and you, as I'll show you, just use a tool like Canva to fix the picture, make sure that the words are correctly spelled, put in the right place, and save it. I would venture, as you'll see today, that will take you 2 to 3 minutes per person. Done. Versus try to make an ACF custom form with all this stuff that they need to put in, which, by the way, maybe it's true in a more complex business, but not here. And they screw it up. And then they email you, why doesn't my profile look good? Or why is my picture blurry? Or how do I do this? Or how do I do that? So like the concierge in a hotel, hey, I need to go to the Lakers game tonight. Okay. Tickets are there for you. They just have a person who does that. They've got a system. It's easy for you, easy for the concierge, versus you going, hey, concierge, what online service do I call to order tickets for a Lakers game? And how do I do this? And where do I give my credit card? And, oh, can I do this? And blah, 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 blah. Okay. So simplification can come from actually doing, as a concierge, many of these steps. Here's the tools we need. First of all, we typically want a custom post type. What is a custom post type? It is a container. Think of a Tupperware container. Think of a bucket. Think of a box to hold a different type of content than your pages or your posts or your products or your media. That's it. Many of you may not have ever used it before. We include the custom post type UI plugin down here, the CPT UI, so we can very easily create a custom post type. Now, do you need to use this? Not necessarily. You could just use or reuse pages or posts. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But the advantage of doing it this way is you've got something separate and different that allows you a different URL, it doesn't get indexed. There's benefits to doing this. So let's start with a container, and we're going to call this directory. Okay. So we go here and we say add or edit a post type. And if you guys have any of the technical problems with seeing this, or I'm not coming through clear, let me know. So I'm going to call this the slug. This has to be all lowercase. Directory. You can call it whatever you want. You could call it prospects. It doesn't matter. You just have to have the first line for the slug underlined because that's a URL. So let's call it directory. And I think it's a good idea. Do not try to use something that already exists. So don't call it media. Don't call it products. Don't call it events. Those are already taken. But directory, as far as I understand, is not being used by any of our other software here. The plural label would be kind of, it's weird. It's like one of those words. It's still, I would just call it directory. It's not directories. But like the reason to be plural would be if you said this is directory and you wanted to call this people, it'd be person, people. But let's just call it directory and directory. Okay. And this can be also capitalized. So these are labels so they can have proper spelling and uppercase and so forth. We can auto-populate everything below here, which is great. We click this button. And then I'm not sure what this is. We're not migrating. So let's just for now add the post type. Now, when we add a post type, there's two types of post types. And you can kind of see this in WordPress. There's pages types, which are called hierarchical, and there are regular post types, which are not. The difference is this. In pages, you may have noticed that you can have a parent page that has children below it. Whereas in blog posts, you really don't. All blog posts are the same. It's like capitalism and communism or something. But the idea is just understand post type without hierarchy means all of the posts are equal. They can be gathered. They can be used. There's very little huge consequence, whichever you pick. But for right now, since this is a directory, I would say we're probably going to have some benefit to just calling it hierarchical, but it really makes no difference for today. In future conversations, I can show you more details. If one were to scroll down here, what's really important is in the settings, these are already by default okay. It must be a public post type, so you can query it. That means you can show it if you search for it. And I magically seems to have logged myself out. I don't know how that happened. Let's see if I can magically log myself back in. As always happens, I managed to kick myself out. Let me get myself back in here. Hey, Andrew Palmer is in the house. Hello. You get to see, when I work without a net, what happens is I do things crazy like this where I am in the middle of a live demonstration and my demo site decides to log me out. But that's okay, because that just demonstrates I'm working live without a net. So let me get my login link for this site, which normally in my past I would have a standard site that has the same login. But since I'm doing it today on a live demo site, I just have the magic link I'm going to go grab. So as I was saying, if you decide to set it up this way, the thing we're going to talk about in 1 second when I get back in is we want to make sure that it can be publicly found or queryable. That means you can search for the page content and so forth. All right, let me just grab this and stop talking for a second. Hopefully like that. I will be magically back in. Okay, so if we go back into the CPT UI, sorry about that, kids. We're going to edit the post type that we're on. We just go to edit this time, and we want to choose the one that I just created, directory. So what I was showing you is you've scrolled down. We want to just make sure at a minimum that it's public. It can be queried publicly. We do want to show the user interface, show it in the nav menus. We do not want to delete it if the user gets deleted. We do want to show it in the API. So all these things are good. Now, here's the one that you really need to set. This is important. You need to say, yes, it does. True. It does have an archive, because we want to have a page that shows up under the URL called directory that will list all of the posts. This is also the magic of using this whole Kadence thing, because we don't have to do anything for formatting, as I'll show you. This all just happened. If we wish, we can also customize right here the slug. So even if I called it directory, if I change my mind, don't do it often, just once, I can give a different slug. Like maybe I realize there's something that's in the way of this, so I change the name to directories. Now, we don't want to exclude it from search. Here's where I mentioned the capability type. there's either posts or pages or other stuff. If I leave this as post, it's absolutely fine. There's nuances here about reading, writing, editing. We don't have to worry about that because as an administrator, you're going to get all of those. Hierarchical. That was the thing I was talking about where yes or no, true or false. Do you want to have the ability to like have a parent directory page with children? Maybe, maybe not. I don't think so. Most directories, it's just one post per person. So let's just leave it as false. Can export? Sure, why not? Rewrite rules? True. That's about it. So the only thing that's really important is you really need to set that has archive. Now, we're going to come back to this part. There are different things inside of the WordPress post editor that you may or may not want to show. Like, for example, we don't really want to have comments, but maybe you do. Maybe you want to do a directory that allows your logged in members to comment on other people. Great picture, Spence. Love the beard. Okay. Well, I don't need that, so I'm leaving it off. Do you want revisions? Yeah, that's probably good to support because that's something that like, I might have made a mistake. I want to come back. Author, do you need to display that? Not so sure. Trackbacks, definitely not. Custom fields, most of this stuff, probably not. Just title, show the editor, featured images, and revisions. It's probably good enough. Okay. Taxonomies. Now we're going to come back to this. Notice this is listing the categories and tags for other post types that I have. Products, lessons, courses. We're going to come back to this because we want to actually add 2 taxonomies for this as well, one of which is really important. WP Fusion is included. We could restrict access to this. We'll come back to this in the end. This is a really cool feature where the whole post type could be protected, requiring a tag. Imagine a situation. It's a private directory. You have to pay money to see other members because it's like you're searching for qualified talent to work in the WordPress space or whatever, nutritionists. This is an easy way to do it where you don't have to worry about on a per post basis or a per person basis. You could just say, hey man, there's a custom tag and I can, can access directory. I can even make a custom one right here as a tag to protect this across the whole thing. Super awesome. We're not going to do that right now. So let's actually just delete that. And we're going to save the post type. So now we have a container specifically for this. Now let's add, we don't need tags, but we could add tags and categories as simple as this. We want to add a new taxonomy. A taxonomy is a 50-cent word for something that allows you to differentiate, right? It's not tags in the marketing automation sense. It's tags or categories in the filtering things out sense. So for example, if I was to go over here, wplaunchkit.com documentation, I can filter on a variety of different categories. Here I have these broad parent categories like automate your business. And that filters out only things that are within those parent categories or build your courses, build your website. But I can also be very specific and filter out. I just want to see the 2 things that are about directories. Ta-da. So you can have a broad parent category. You can have very specific child categories, all of which can be used, as I'm going to show you, to filter out on a standard archive page with no other design stuff, this simple stuff. So that's what we're shooting for here. So let's just do taxonomy, and we're going to call it the slug, right? So category, and notice it's saying, hold on, Spence, that's already there. Category, and we can use a hyphen, which is a safe slug character. We can't use weird brackets and stuff. Category directory. You could say directory category if you want. And we'll call it category. And here I could say directory, or I can make it shorter if I don't want to, like take up so much space here. But let's just say category directory. And the singular label, it's the same. I guess you could say categories if you really wanted to. Categories, category, directory. Now here's that magic trick. Which post type is this going to associate with? Well, remember, we've got a new directory post type. So that's the only one we want this to be associated with. Done. I could do the same thing for tags. Now, the difference between categories and tags is the difference between nouns and adjectives. Nouns are broad terms, Asia, Africa. Tags are like very specific versions, right? Like North America, South America, East Africa, stuff like that. So if we wanted to, we could also add a taxonomy, even though I probably won't use it here, of calling it tags. I will avoid that just for now because it's the same exact thing as we did before for categories, but we just make sure that it has nesting capability or cloud capability. You can pick multiples instead of it being organized in parent-child. So let's see what we've got, just so I could keep this rolling. We should have now one other thing you're going to have to do here. See where it says my directory? One of the things you're going to want to do here is I'm old. Have you noticed? I like alphabetizing. So what I want to do is I want to go into settings, menu editor, and I want to re-alphabetize so that my new directory thing shows up where I'll know where it's at. And if I want, even though it says my directory or whatever, I can actually shortcut this and just call it directory. Whatever you want to do, it doesn't matter. And the reason I like this is because, like, for me, I just can't figure things out if it's not alphabetical. So I just drag that into place using the LaunchKit setup, save it, and now I know where to go. So now, if I refresh this page, see I now have directory. I have all directory, add new, and I've got my taxonomy. And that's all I need. Now, what happens if I go to all directory? It's going to be basically a list of anything I've created, which I have none yet. I need to make something. So let's first just put a placeholder for an entry without concern over what it is that's going to be on the page. I think you should just use the title as the name of the person, Spencer Foreman or whatever. Now, notice, I mean, just good old Gutenberg. I don't need anything fancy here. For the basic, Spencer Foreman. If I want, I can set a featured image for this. I could do this a couple ways. I like with LaunchKit, if I just go Spencer Foreman, I can grab some image of this character off the internet. Okay. I could right click, copy image address, and save myself a whole heap of trouble and go over here for featured image by URL, which is, again, a very, very simple, efficient way of doing this. You could put the real image uploaded at the media library. I'm just saying. And if I do nothing else, I'm going to say, this is the future directory page of Spencer Foreman. Let's see what happens. First of all, we're going to be essentially creating a single directory post. That's the Spencer Foreman post. And you'll notice that out of the box, this is going to be, look, the name of the site, which is this weird placeholder, /Spencer Foreman. So if we just go to that page, we should see the basics of what we just talked about. Notice there's not a featured image displayed because that's just a matter of whether I set up this page layout to do that. So Kadence is out of the box, very convenient. It would allow me to show the featured image default if that's what I'd set up, or I can enable it manually, and I can do various things like above, below, behind, and so forth. Let's just for now say above. Don't think you have to do this. I'm going to show you a custom way, but just that's how we would get that feature image to show up typically. And one of the things I want to double check on, because I'm not sure if that actually functions. I think the Kadence, in order to use this, you would probably have to, I just need to correct myself. You probably have to use the default featured image. So in other words, you'd have to, let's say, add the file, right? So here, let's just use, I have a picture of some weird logo here. I'm just going to use this. And I think that would do the trick as far as for the default Kadence layout, which we're not going to stick with anyway, but I just want to give you a sense of what's going on. You see, okay. So we now have a singular post, but notice the directory structure. See where it says directory /Spencer Foreman. If I go back to just the root of the directory, I'm going to have what's called an archive page. Kadence is very generous about giving me this directory archive. I don't have to do any work. I don't have to use a query loop or anything, kids. Now, if you don't know what a query loop is, that's a feature now in Gutenberg that saves us all of the misery we used to have to do of making a custom archive template and a custom single post type template. Instead, all I need to do now, watch this magic. If I go back into my main setup of appearance, customize, the Kadence stack is so generous for the new year that it has already figured out I'm using a custom post type. So if I go to post pages layout, oh my goodness, it's given me 2 controls out of the box, directory archive. And in doing so, it needs me to tell it where this page is. So let's do something really quick. Let's add that directory archive page to my menu so I can show it while I'm setting things up, right? So I'm going to add an item here. And you notice like with directory, I've got the archive page. Let's just add that to the menu. We won't worry about what it's called. It's got a long name right now. But that way, what I can do is I can actually call it up while I'm doing this preview of the layout tools. So you see here, now I see my preview and I've got post and page layouts. I go to directory archive. Now look how fun Kadence makes this. If I want to, out of the box, maybe I don't need to call this directory at the top of the page. So I can just get rid of that. And maybe I want to show the breadcrumbs or not show the breadcrumbs if I, by the way, if I have that shown. Let's re-show it. Maybe I want to or not show the breadcrumbs. Maybe I'd rather put the title kind of like this style. So you can see how I can save so many steps by just using the Kadence. Maybe I want the title centered or to the right or to the left. I maybe do or do not want the title shown, but I want the breadcrumbs shown. You know, like all these little options are available to me just by choosing this stuff here. Okay. So out of the box, let's just say I'll turn off the breadcrumbs and I'll use this kind of thing because this is actually pretty attractive. And let's show the title. Turn it on and off. Sometimes the preview, you have to trigger it again. By the way, there are design tools too, if you wanted to, where you could change the title color. If I wanted to make the title color red and so forth. So let's publish and refresh the page. And this will give us just a nice archive. And this is relevant because now I have a place to send people to filter and sort who's going to be seen. But more importantly, I want to set myself up with that left-hand column so that I can do the faceted search part. Okay, so I've got a directory. I made it red. I centered it on the left side or whatever, and I've got somebody shown. But let's customize one little bit more because I really think I want to have a left-hand column to have some faceted search stuff. Now, I could put the faceted search on the top or the bottom. It's just as easy, but like, let's just go over here and use this tool. If I scroll down, see the archive gives me full width, normal, full width, narrow, left or right sidebar. Let's choose left sidebar. And let's also say how many columns. I don't think I want more than 2 or 3 columns because they're going to be too narrow. So let's just say 2 columns at a time, right? So I'll have 3 columns across the page, the left sidebar, and then 2 results of whomever else is here. And notice I can also, for the posts, I can decide I don't really need to show read more, or maybe I don't really need the excerpt. Maybe I just need, you know, the picture of the person and their name and so forth, right? So you just turn those off, and there's design tools for these as well when you go on the back end. Now, you may be wondering, Spence, do I need to use just this as a layout? No, we can take any page and use the Kadence post blocks or one of the other fancier post blocks, and we can make a directory that shows anything any way we want. But just out of the box, this is so super convenient that I feel like it's a no-brainer, right, for us to make whatever we're going to make. And even with this, let's just reset the color because I think it would look nicer in black. If you wanted, we could even, again, I don't want to make this a design thing, but like you can adjust the minimum height of this thing so it doesn't have to be so tall. Maybe it's just like that. We'll set this to a specific color. And then let's publish. Okay, so next, we need to customize what's in the sidebar. Let's choose to make sure we know which one we got. Out of the box, there are 2 default sidebars, and we can add other ones if we need. I just don't use sidebars for any reason in WordPress other than this. So these are fine. These are like waiting for my attention. I'm going to choose sidebar 1. The reason that's relevant is I'm going to go, let's open up a new page. Let's go over to our appearance widgets and clear that bad boy up. Now, I like to work over here under appearance widgets. You could work on this right here and just get rid of these or edit it. I like working here, as you'll see in a second, because it's the full Gutenberg editor. So in this particular case, it's a little hard to see, but well, now it's easier. See, I have sidebar 1, 2, footer, blah, blah. All these are widget areas. If I open up sidebar 1 widget area, and I also open up the list view, I can basically see what's in here is a bunch of stuff I don't need. So I just highlight it and delete it, just like normal Gutenberg editor. By the way, on January 8th, I'm going to be having a public conversation with Jamie Marsland about why this is awesome, and full site editing makes me want to put my head underwater and not come up. So this makes sense to me. This is Gutenberg as it should be. This is not trying to add another layer of 64 things that make no sense. So I've got a widget area called sidebar 1. I've told my template to use sidebar 1. I need to put some stuff in here for letting me figure out what to filter out. Filtering out is being done with a tool called Facet WP. Facet WP is here under Settings. Facet WP. Let's open that up in a tab. Now, we have to have something to search upon besides just the name. So remember, I was giving you all this hoedown about like categories and showing you how it could be used. Let's go back for a second to our Spencer Foreman. Let's get rid of the pictures. Let's go back here to our Spencer Foreman single post. And I can either create these in advance in the back end, or I can just edit this while I go to give a category or categories to Spencer Foreman's post. And I can use those categories for facet filters. You'll notice here, categories, add a new category. Let's pretend profession. Let's do 2 things, or maybe 3. Profession, city, age. That one makes me sad. I'm going to hit enter. City, or yeah, okay, fine. And age. Now, I've added 3 primary categories. Remember, we talked about once you've got those, you can have children. So I can actually have predefined choices if I wish. Once I refresh this page, you'll see this. I can put children categories in place if I want to, in order to allow drop-down choices for future people. Notice that this is not showing in that way. That's because when we first set this up, and now I have a reason to take you back here, in the CPT UI, I need to choose for the taxonomy, is this a hierarchical or not? Just like I did for the post type. So let's now set that, now that you know where it comes into play. If we go to taxonomies, categories, we scroll down. We have the same choices we did when we set up the post type. Hierarchical. The answer is true. We want this queryable. We want it rewritable. Everything else should be the same. Show an admin column, sure, why not? Show and tag cloud. Now that we don't need, because we're not going to do a tag. We're going to do this like more of a, category. Now that it's set for hierarchical, when we go back and I look at this single post type, we will see that we'll have the more traditional, like with the pages, the ability to stack things above or below and organize it in that fashion. So now we see the categories. We can add a new category. Let's add a couple things for Spence, but like, let's do first of all, age, right? So age 26. Oh wait, no, that's not true. 57. What's the parent category that goes under? Age. Now, I don't really need to have age checked anymore. I just did that to create it because I'm putting in the specific details about me. So age 57. Add a new category. City, Chicago. What's the parent that's under? city. Notice I don't need city checked. Add a new category, profession. That's funny. My phone decided that it was talking to me. Let's do profession. Gangster. No, I'm saying WordPress. And now you'll notice that the categories that I've defined, for me, this post type, Spencer, he's got WordPress Chicago 57. Let's update and save it. Now, if you're doing this en masse, which you should, you're going to do this on the back end. You're going to do this. Let's go back over here. Remember, we have the directory. Alphabetical. CD. There it is. Directory. Let's just look at the categories pages. You can do this all in mass quantities in bulk. See? I've got age, city, profession. Let's add a few other ages in here, okay? So I'm going to add another one that's going to say 28. I mean, by the way, you could do an age range instead. You could say, I don't know, what's this? Under 30. Make sure you choose the parent of age. You can add, by the way, specific protection levels and custom icons. You can do all kinds of cool stuff when you do this. But essentially, now I've got two things under age. Let's do a city. Let's do New York. New York. Parent category, city. And let's do one other profession. Gangsta. I was watching one of those, I forget the name of it, but one of those vintage British gangster movies, like they go gangsta. Okay, so profession. Now I've got stuff for Facet WP to work with. So remember I was saying with Facet WP, we can now create filters. Let's add, first of all, a general search filter, which is easy. Search anything. Now, I won't do it today, but we can actually create a search algorithm that specifically looks for only this post type. But since this site has no other content, I'm just going to use a general search. Here I'll choose search. And I can put placeholders, search directory. Now, the reason that this is useful to have a specific search engine on is if I did have posts or pages or other stuff, this is going to come up with other things. I would rather it sort of just be specific. But for right now, just understand that the capability is there. And I've got this fully documented anyway, but just to make this fast, because it's 10:40 and we're almost done here. I'm just going to take this. And now what I'm going to do is, see, it says index is empty. We don't really have anything in there. Sometimes just purge the index table, and that sometimes will fix that issue. We should get at least one result. Now, see, it's green. Save the changes, and now here's all you do. Copy that short code, go back to our widgets. Thank you, Cadence. Short code, and paste it in. Now, let's go back and look at our customizing directory page and refresh, because now we will see in our left column, we have that one search facet. And we're going to add 3 other ones as quickly as that. So again, page post layout, directory archive. Let's take a look at it. Okay, we're getting warmer. Let's add 2 or 3 other things. We had age, city, and profession, right? So let's go back to facets. And now here's what's interesting. What we want to do is we need to specify the ID of the category for the thing we want to specifically search. So let's do, we can say like just age. We can choose a drop down or radio boxes or check boxes, anything you want design wise. Let's just do check boxes because there's so few of them. Okay. Post type, we want to say this is specifically the directory post type. And notice we've got categories for the post type of directory. Now, here's what's interesting. If we wanted to, and we do, we don't want to show checkboxes for all categories, only for the parent. So let's go over and look at that thing I was just showing you a second ago, which is if we go look at the categories. Let's roll our mouse over and get the ID of the age parent. So if I roll my mouse over, on the bottom left side, you can see category directory and tag ID equals 21. I don't know if you can see it. It's down in the bottom left here. But otherwise, you'll have to trust me. It's 21. And that's just a number that represents that particular term that I created. Hierarchical, sure. Show ghosts, that means, do I want to show it even if there's nothing there? Yeah, why not? Now, here's the interesting one. Is it and or? If you check one of these or two of these, does it mean it's or these, or does it mean it's only the ones you've checked? I usually go, in this case, with or. And then for a count, if you have hundreds of items, you can say only show 10 or 20 at a time, or you can do -1, and that'll show no matter how many there are. Okay, so we need to do two things. Save this, re-index it, and then finally copy the short code, and we want to put this in here below the other one. So I would typically just duplicate it, put it in there. Now, what I like to do also is I insert above it and I just put in a heading, and I call this age or whatever the label is. And I make it usually small enough, like H5. Okay. Now let's duplicate this 2 more times. Because we're going to do age, city, profession. Okay. And I'm going to just, because I know what I'm going to label these, I'll make these easy. This will be city. This will be profession. Okay. So I've set out for myself these layouts, so I don't have to worry about this page. And now what I'll do is I'll go back here and I'll just make this really super simple. I'm just going to duplicate this one. Oops. I'm going to duplicate this one. And instead of age, I'm going to call this city. I need the category. So for city, the category number is 20. I'm going to save. Oh, and let's make sure this has to be right. This has to be age. Sorry. This has to be city for the short code. Save. Purge the table, re-index. We should get a green light. Okay. And I just want you to understand, like, amazingly fast, right? Like, I'm doing this while I'm yipping and yapping. This is not complicated. There's only a few steps. And then finally, we're going to do profession. Let's change this to profession. We need the category ID for profession. So that is, rolling my mouse over, it is number 19. Same idea. Let's save, purge, and re-index. Migraine break. Okay. It's getting exciting, folks. Now, keep in mind, I only have one post. So let's not be goofy. Let's add at least a second person or third person in here, right? So let's go into our directory, all directory, and let's duplicate Spence and make him somebody else, right? So, well, I don't have the duplicate plugin installed, so I can either, well, let's just do that. I'll show you what we do. I'm not sure why I don't have this enabled, but if not, I'll just pop in the free one. It's just, usually we just use a free plugin like clone page or post. I thought I would have had that in here, but let me just see if it's just disabled or not. Doesn't matter. Somehow it's not in here. So let's just add new plugin. We'll just call this one duplicate post. I think there's a very old-fashioned, very stable 8 billion version. It doesn't matter. Here. I don't want to use the Yoast one. This is the one, duplicate page. This is one I've used before. 3 million, there's only 3 million users. So, and it's all 5 stars. I'm sure it's fine. What could go wrong? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate like 2 more versions of the Spence post, just so we have something to search against. So I'm going to go to directory, all directory. And now I should have an option menu that says duplicate this. I may have to set up that. I don't want to get distracted on this because it's besides I may have to set up that one thing just to enable the options for the post type. So hold on. If I go to tools, settings, let's see where it's at. This is what happens when I add something that's not in the stack. Me, do me. I will do Andrew Palmer. He's gangster. I'm going to just go here instead to find the, what I do is a secret trick. I go in here, installed plugins, and then I go to the settings menu from this because I don't know what it's calling itself, but I'm sure it just needs me to tell it to use the custom post type. That's all. One of the things I've always done working without a net. Oh, I need to activate it. That might help. When I work without a net, you guys get to realize sometimes you've said to me, Spence, I feel much better about myself because I realize you do this all day long and you sometimes like wander the desert looking for stuff. So these are tricks that I've learned as the time has gone on to make it easier. There it is. So let's duplicate it. We'll do Andrew Palmer. That guy is definitely gangster, right? So edit. And by the way, with regard to like the thumbnail, I'll download it now, but I'm going to also show you why the design thing at the end comes in handy. So let's change to Andrew Palmer. Palmser. What's interesting here, by the way, is the Cadence also gives us this option here. If we say replace this, you can go to Pexels. You know, I'm sure he doesn't show up, but you can go for Gangsta and find there. This is definitely Andrew Palmer right here. So we're going to use that image. I saw him at WordPress, at WordCamp, and that was definitely, I'm absolutely sure that was his picture. Okay. Now we have two people. Let's change his taxonomy. He is definitely younger than I am. And I'm going to add a new category because he's in, let's just say he's in West End of London. I know he's not. He's in an undisclosed location, but we're going to put him in London. And he's definitely profession of gangsta. So we're going to change that. So under 30, London, gangsta. Okay. Let's try this to start. We can add a third one if we need. Let's go to our new directory, shall we? If we go over here, remember, we can just type the word directory. And look what we've got. We've got two people in here, Spencer Foreman, the organic banana, and the gangster, Andrew Palmer. If I want to search just for Andrew, this, again, subject to whatever other posts I have, will filter out just the post type of Andrew based upon words like in the title and so forth. And you can customize that further using the Search WP engine. I'll show you that in a second. What if I want to reset this? Well, that's one thing that's super easy too. Let's go over here to Facet WP and add one other thing. There's a reset. So I'm going to go to Facet WP. I'm going to add a reset button here. This is super easy to add. Just call this reset. Choose the option of reset. And you could say what, reset filters. Okay. You can also have it auto hide so it doesn't show up unless you're using it. Save. Copy the shortcode. Let's go to our widget area and let's go to the very bottom and we're going to say add after. And in this case, again, it's a shortcode, but in this case, I do like to put a spacer in of some kind. So I'll say insert before or add before, and I'll just put a spacer in just because that kind of divvies it off from the bottom. You don't have to have a visual, but like a line, but it makes it look good and feel good. Now, here's why that's useful, because now at the bottom, I can just say, hey, reset the whole thing. Super easy. Let's see who else we can find. If I look for a WordPress professional in my directory, Spencer, I want a gangster. Right, so I click gangster. I get only Andrew. You see how this works, right? Okay. Now, what happens when I click on the person's page? Now, this is the, hold on, let's get real, people. Let's get serious. This is the magic trick of this whole WP Launch Kit, Marketing Hub, Kadence underneath the hood thing. Yes, we could use advanced custom fields and make a template that allows us to enter data about the person. But you know what I've already got? I've got this amazingly simple system of saving patterns that look good, feel good. Why don't I just use those? And I have basic layout and custom layout. And depending on who it is, I concierge edit it for when I'm doing the directory. Why? Because truth be told, Andrew or Spencer or whoever is in my directory, they are doing other things. They are too busy to bother getting their information right. I'm going to have to edit their stuff anyway. So why not just put it in from the beginning? That's my point. Now, Kadence makes this, again, amazingly easy. I can choose any page layout I want, but let's just get rid of this future blah, blah, blah stuff. And I can use a full starter template. I can use a pattern piece. I can use any number of things that I want that are already available off the shelf because I'm already using Kadence and so forth, right? So let me shrink this down. Okay. If I wanted to, I could use any of these blocks or pre-made whatever. It doesn't make a difference. I could just show you and then I'll do something simpler. I could do something like featured image area. These are not so great. I'm not going to use these. Let's do in the blocks. No, what do I want to do? Let's use, for example, just to make this simple, let's go to the patterns.launch flows, just because I know I got some interesting stuff. Let's say, for example, I wanted to use something that was already here, like, actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to borrow. I hope she doesn't mind. I don't know if Anne's here. I'm going to go to, I'm having cognitive dissonance of what to do for you. Okay, I'm going to show you two ways. One way would be to take a starter template itself or something like this, and I can just copy the pattern code and paste it in place. Another way to do it would be to build it manually with, like inside of here, I've got appearance starter templates, which would also give me access to an amazing amount of stuff, right? I could just choose any of these things and go, I need this or I need that. But just for simplicity today, because I think it's going to be more beneficial, let's do this manual style. So all I need to do is first put in a row. Okay. And I'm going to do like left and right columns. So I'm just going to right now say 2 equal columns. And in doing so, remember we've got that featured image URL. I can put the image here a couple different ways. I can either type in featured image, which will just be the Gutenberg way, but I really should use advanced images from Kadence, because in doing this, I now have more capability of design on the right-hand side for things I want to do about, this design. As far as the image, I can use the dynamic capabilities of that to choose the featured image from this post. And in doing that, all I need to do is just put the thing in place, click here, and then say featured image. Done. Now, again, this is going to choose the one that was uploaded manually. If I don't want to do that, I could just manually put the URL in, like I was saying, from a remote location. On the right-hand side, here's what I can do with that layout. I can put the title in, either by, again, typing post title, but these aren't really great. These are the default Gutenberg. I use advanced, and I put heading. So let's do heading, advanced heading. And I do the same thing, dynamic. So I click on the thing, general, here, okay. And then up at the top, when I've clicked on it, because I've got that locked in the toolbar, I choose dynamic content, post title. Because remember, I use the name of the person. Now, let's say I want to do that other kind of stuff that varies on a post-by-post basis. Maybe I've got a call to action button and I've got a biography and all the rest. So one of the things I can put in here is just, let's say, the buttons. And this is call to action, visit my site. I want to be able to do this on a post by post basis. So I'm going to leave this as a standard button ready for me to edit on the pattern. And let's give this some design coolness. So for the row layout, I'm going to say, let's structure it so that both columns are the same. The left-hand column, I'm going to just leave as the image, but I'm going to put a white background on it. And let's give it like a little border. Again, I'm not trying to do a design exercise here. And border radius maybe 5 pixels. On the right, you can barely see that, so I'll bump that up a little bit. There we go. Okay, on the right-hand side, I'm going to do that as a gray background. And I'm going to also add some padding in there because I know it's going to need it. And I could do the same thing if I want with the border. I'll do 1 pixel, same thing, 5 pixels radius. Okay. Now I can control if I want the layout with the gutter of the column and make it a little smaller. I got a pretty nice setup. Maybe fix the button. So with the button, I'm going to say, I'm going to make this full width because I know it's going to look good that way, right? So full. And I can maybe, if I wanted typography wise, change this to a different font, or I can change the layout, like maybe center it. Okay. I've now got a row layout. Let's give this a name so I can save it as my pattern. I go to advanced and I can now give this a block name, and I'll call this directory. No, let's just call it, directory header. I could, if I want, give it more specific labels or capabilities and so forth. But all that matters is, notice when I type that in, now it's got the label there for convenience. Again, Gutenberg and Cadence work magics together. I'm going to save this so I can use this on any page. And that's what's going to happen with Mr. Palmer's page. So let's create a pattern. Directory header pattern. I am not going to sync this because I want it to be used for everybody. So I want to just have it, use it, change it. Okay, I'm done. Let's look at the directory now between Mr. Palmer. And then also we can, by the way, we can put navigation back in here. Instead of calling directory archives, we call it directory. Let's look at that versus Spencer Foreman. Okay, Spencer Foreman still has that thing above his thing. Let's change his layout on the page so that it no longer forces that image at the top, right? Remember, we did that at the very beginning here. So if we go to the page with Cadence, we're going to default. We don't really want to show that. We could even disable it, but the point is the default, I don't think, shows it. All we want to show is just the content. Okay, so once that's updating, now we have 2 different layouts for our functional directory. Here's the new Spencer Foreman layout. Now, I can make this full width, I can do lots of stuff, but like, what's cool about this is if I am taking in information from Spence, a Fluent form, an email, anything, he can tell me everything about him. Let's see if there's anything out here. Here, I'm the expert. Okay. Somebody did a piece about me. Okay. Let's just say Spence sends this stuff in. All you need to do, simplicity, concierge style, making money style. Take Spence's money. Tell him, I got you covered. You take the information that was given to you in the form, and then now you have in this thing, you paste that in, and now his website is WP Launchify. Hope you have your timers on. .com. Let's make sure that opens in a new window or new tab so it doesn't take away. I'm done. And by the way, Spence actually sent me a better image of himself, remember? So if we look for the image of Spencer Foreman instead of the janky placeholder, we will probably find something here or there. Copy image URL or address. So here in this case, because it's custom, I can just say edit image, right? and either upload it, or what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. I'm going to use the capability here of just using the URL. So delete, insert from your, let's delete and update. I'm going to use the replace. Let's click on it like this. There we go. Okay, delete. It's making my life a little difficult only because I'm going to remove it for the second it is fighting me. So I'm just going to delete it and do the same thing. Image. And I'm going to paste from the URL. And in this case, I could make it bigger, right? Like I can make it 100% width or fixed width. It doesn't matter. It'll fill in nicely. I just want to make sure that it's at least 500 pixels and so forth. Update it. Now what I've got is basically the complete thing. I've got the ability to, in just a couple seconds, update the person in the directory, make sure it's accurate, have everything working. And as a concierge, that's less work than if I had, let's say, relied upon them to type it right or give me the right image or do whatever. Now, even here, because I did this, I would probably fix this a little better. But look at the difference. I've made the directory listing for Spence, and it's still different than the one for Andrew because Andrew's still on the other one. But what if I needed to fix Andrew because he, finally sent me all that money? Okay, I'm going to go in his directory and the same amount of time. Open this up, get rid of the placeholder. I'm going to use my saved pattern. Oh my God, so fast. My pattern, directory header. Here's his thing. And now again, this shows Spencer, but it's going to show Andrew. This is showing his. His website might be at, I am Arnie Palmer, right? So Andrew, what's your URL these days? I can't remember what it is. Type it in there if you get it. But let's say Andrew Palmer WordPress. I think it's I am Arnie Palmer. This is Andrew Palmer. Okay. So go ahead and I just change for him the URL of this button to his. Same thing. Now, maybe I want to get some bio on him. I'll just do the same thing. Copy. Really simple, right? Don't worry, that's a Spencer Foreman. There's nothing you can do about that because that's dynamic. But when the live site shows up, and again, when we did before, we want to make sure we get him onto the default layout. Done. Now I have two people, took their money. I've got a directory, filterable, searchable, all done with the tools that we've already got. It goes to a site. Simple as that. The directory archive can be called out. Here's my last trick of the day because I'm 6 minutes over. Besides the fact that I can filter and search, notice that when I roll my mouse over any of these things, these will show up as URLs. Let's say I wanted to save a search for only gangsters from London. Okay, this URL here is a permanent URL you can use for marketing purposes. Hey, come to my directory and click this button to find all the gangsters from London. Ta-da. Okay. I want to say thanks to all you guys for hanging in there. Thank you, Andrew Palmer, and everybody else who's been throwing in, because this is what you can now build for yourself, but more importantly, you can do it for your customers. And this is what we talked about last night. I talked about it with Ann. I talked about Danisha. Dr. Krieger knows about this. You can build something that now the mechanics of this, you could just copy and paste and resell. Chris understands this. This is something that a client, in fact, I don't know if she's here today, but I spoke with Danisha. She was explaining to me, because she's in the tax professional business, that there's somebody who does this for a third-party service and charges $7,500, which doesn't sound actually that unrealistic for doing this. You can do this here with your $97 a month launch kit. Save it, clone it, share it, do it. Because whether you put them on your own site and you charge them a certain amount, or you give them their own version of this, if you gave them their own version, add this with a CRM and a way to take money, you can easily charge somebody $7,500 to deliver this solution. And there's no complexity because you're not reinventing the platform. You're not buying software. You're not figuring it out. I'm handing this to you downstream because this is the platform of WordPress as it should be, just like it is if you have your CRM attached. which, by the way, that all extends what we're doing here, but that's beyond the scope of today. I want to say thanks to everybody who's been around. We have amazing stuff happening this year, 2024. Some huge announcements that follow up from what I alluded to about what I'm doing internally and externally to make this stuff available. Finally, as a product pricing, WP Launch Kit and WP Marketing Hub will be available in a 5-pack today. Right now it's $97 a month plus $60 for every other site, but we're doing it as a 5-pack. So you'll have $97 for one site or 5 sites, including your relationship site, for $297, which will put us in a much better value proposition and on par with what I'm doing with Go High Level and the other outside CRMs. But it seems to be a price that everybody understands, that I got one for me and 4 other ones I can use myself for my businesses or my clients, and I don't have to worry about anything else. It's a good deal. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate your time and your support. Oh, hi, Tina. I didn't hear you were lurking in the background there. If you guys have questions, just email me, help@wplaunchify.com. Otherwise, if you have not joined, join up. Click the button below here in the WP Launch Kit button if you're on the website. I'll see you on the next video. Have a great weekend.